Hey, Ben Wise from ZOAR Fitness, and this is the name game. Workout number 48 is Marry Me. The 15-minute AMRAP of 5 strict handstand push-ups, 8 pistols, and 13 toes to bar. Let's get into standards. The strict handstand push-up. So you're going to tape off a 40 by 24 inch box. That is the inside line. So the inside of that box is 40 by 24. No part of your hand and or your fingers or fingertips can touch that. So no part of you can touch that box. This was the standard that was used for the age group online qualifier and the quarterfinals event 2 in 2021. I really like it. I hope we see it more in the future because it's simple. You lock out your arms, you keep a straight core line, and you just have to make sure that your hands are inside the box. So the one thing that is tricky with this is that most people want to go as wide as they can because it makes the range of motion a little bit easier. But you have to make sure that no part of your fingers and typically pinkies are touching this, right? Because a lot of people turn out their hands sort of like this when they're doing it. So like the pinky is the thing that could potentially be over the line. 2 things that can help you maximize the standard. One is potentially turning your fingers a little bit more towards the wall, right? So instead of turning out like this, I often tell people like 45 degrees or sort of like thumbs pointed towards the wall. One of the things that will help you is if you turn it forward a little bit, often it allows you to get a little bit more, like actually be able to go wider because you're not quite as, your fingers don't go as far that way. The other thing that will help you is potentially just bringing that pinky in a bit. Like, don't let your fingers be spread apart. Bring them in, turn the wrist, and literally that'll probably save you 4 inches on each side, which 8 inches wider total. It's a completely different stance. If you're turned out like this, you're gonna feel a little bit crammed, whereas if you go like this, you're gonna have way more room and it'll feel much more comfy. So comfy is good. Try it out. Standard number 2 is the pistol. You must alternate the pistols. These are alternating pistols. So what that means is, if I have a bad leg and it's on my right side, where I struggle to get depth, or my heel comes up, and where I, end up touching my front foot a lot. Like all those things are considered no reps. And that means that I have to go back to my right side to get a successful rep on that side before I go to my left. And again, those are the things that are all applying. So hip crease has to be below the top of the knee. And then front foot cannot touch the floor at any point. So if like I'm on my right side and my front foot is hovering, or my left foot is hovering and it touches the floor as I get out there, that's a no rep. And even if I stand it up, I got to go back into that same side. I know it's annoying, but you got to do it. That's the pistol. Toes to bar. Again, feet come behind in the back of the rep. At the initiation of each rep, they must be behind the plane of the line if you're looking at it from the side. And then as they come up to the top, both feet have to touch the bar in sync at the same time. So both feet touch at the same time. Setup. Again, you have wall space and you have a pull-up bar. Both of those are probably going to be pretty fixed. You might have some options there, but basically you're going to be in between those two. And then you'll just pistol at some place where it makes sense in terms of transition, where it's in between, and save yourself as much time as possible in transition, because likely there's going to be quite a bit of transitions in a workout like this. It's sort of a Cindy type feel. Like Cindy and Mary are very kind of similar type feels. So obviously this is not exactly Mary, but it's something that's very close. All right, strategy. Tip number 1, holy hips, right? Like there is a lot of hip flexion requirement in this workout. It is very similar in feel to the GHD pistol workout of event 2 in the quarterfinals and the online qualifier. So very similar to that, where some people feel like they're pretty proficient at pistols, but as soon as you pair it with like GHD sit-ups in that case, and in this case toes to bar, it's gonna go to crap, right? And I think that's a very likely situation here, is that people are like, ooh, like strict handstand push-ups, that's tough, but actually it might not propose as much of basically a bottleneck in this workout because the pistols and because the toes to bar are so interfering. So obviously it's going to be a lot of hips, and position tends to break down. The one thing that I think will probably come up from the standards that I mentioned earlier is that front foot starting to touch the ground as you get tired. This happened to me specifically in quarterfinals event 2. It was like, man, I was really struggling to keep that front foot that was supposed to be in the air from actually touching the floor when I was out in front, just because my hips were so fried. So obviously you want to prep those as much as you can and just kind of prepare for it. Yeah, we'll talk more about economy later on. Tip number 2 is to recover during the handstand push-ups. Again, these are strict handstand push-ups. The strict handstand push-ups will probably frankly, they'll probably either slow you down or they won't in this workout. Like a lot of people just kick up, do them unbroken, and go back to doing their pistols and toes to bar. And because they can kick up, do them unbroken, and get back to their toes to bar and pistols, it's going to actually put more emphasis onto that hip flexor dominance. So it's going to even pose more of a limiter on the hip flexors because you're proficient. So because you can transition out of that quickly, you're just doing more pistols and more toes to bar, and you're going to fatigue even faster. Whereas if you're someone who doesn't have as proficient of strict handstand push-ups, and you're maybe reduced to doubles or even singles, use that time as like strategic rest, basically, where you can allot yourself to take a little bit more time there so that you can stick to more quality pistols into slightly bigger toes to bar sets. I think that would be a smart thing to do. However, regardless of who you are and what your situation is, the third tip here is make sure you are methodical and efficient, right? So I don't see the cycle speed of these movements posing as a limiter unless you're a games athlete, right? So if you're a games athlete, that might be a different story, but for most people that are doing this, you're not a games athlete. So try to stay as relaxed and as fluid as you can, right? So efficiency, movement, economy, focus on that as long as you possibly can, as deep into the workout as you possibly can. And that will basically stave off the fact that things are going to start looking sloppy towards the end, right? So what that means realistically is that the first 5 minutes of this workout will kind of feel painfully slow in terms of your pacing, right? Where it's just like you're braking a little bit more than you feel like you maybe should. You're making sure to stay really efficient and kind of methodical in the way that you go through your pistols, right? And if it doesn't feel that way, then it's probably going to break down even more in the second half of that workout. So again, methodical, efficient, try to stay as relaxed and controlled as long as you can. And then, in the last 5 minutes, you'll just see what you have in terms of capacity. I think that's kind of what it's going to come down to, is just either have it or you don't in terms of the hips on this one. So if you're someone who's just watching this on YouTube, you can get a free 7-day trial of the protocol if you go to zoarfitness.com/pro-trial. I'll link to that below. Be sure to check it out. For everybody else, best of luck on Marry Me.